Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sprint 230 review. This is a normal 2-week sprint ending on February 5th. Let's get started. I'll start with the overview, Jeffrey on the UI, Adam on providers, and Joe on the platform. This was a relatively normal sprint with 91 PRs merged this sprint. A lot of bug fixes came in, so 33 bug fixes, 18 enhancements, and the rest in test and others. And over to Jeffrey on the UI.
Hi, in Sprint 230, a total of 7 PRs got merged into the UI basic repository, out of which 2 are related to bug fixes, 2 for technical depths, and 3 others. I can explain about them in the following slides. Next slide. This PR is from Jay Carmen to change the value of the region in EMS network summary pages. So earlier, the value of the region was displayed from the description object, and then it doesn't have any region-specific information. So Jay changed it to the provider region accesses from the provider region field. Next slide. An issue was recently reported on the service catalog page. However, we believe this issue has been present from some time now, and we are only able to replicate it in a certain manner. That is, when clicking on the link mentioned in the relationship block on the My Services summary page, we get redirected to the catalog summary page, and where the request info tabs wouldn't initially work. So when we try to refresh it, it would load all these tabs, and it all works perfectly fine. So since this page is an Explorer page, we have methods to render both the Explorer tree contents and the actual catalog summary contents. So one of the variables used in the request info tabs was being set in a session by the accordion tree method. So after swapping in these 2 methods, this issue seems to have fixed. And then we also handle one other issue where the one of the React components was getting a huge amount of data, and we were able to solve that issue as well in this PR. Next slide. Forgot the screenshots, but this PR is from Ronit to fix the typo for the catalog service component, catalog resource component. Next slide. Where did it all go? This PR is from Jason to drop the PR, drop the PR template. Next slide. And for the technical depths, we have wait a second. We have PR from Jason to update the GHA versions to not 3 to 4, and PRs from Gilbert to fix the task menu Cypher test and toolbar helper functions. And these new functions for toolbar was also implemented for the rates and the dashboard test. That's all from my side. Over to Adam.
Thanks, Jeffrey. So this sprint, the power team noticed an issue that they were having in one of their environments where when they went to validate credentials for a provider in a restricted zone, it was sometimes getting processed by a different worker. That led to the discovery that a bunch of providers were missing the zone ID from the validation dependencies and the DDF parameters. So the zone ID wasn't being passed in, and unless you actually had providers in lockdown networks, everything would look like it was fine because it would be DQ'd by any worker. So that was a great find, and we were able to fix that up for all of the providers and all of the endpoints that that require validation. So didn't want to list those out here because it's basically the same fix for about a dozen or a dozen and a half providers. But a nice fix there. For IBM Cloud, we fixed a bug with duplicate advanced settings caused by targeting the child manager and the association looking like it was empty. Jay also added some targeted refresh specs with the helper method to do a diff for the database before and after, and found a snapshots bug coming out of that, which was nice. For VMware, we fixed a bug where VM terminate is showing as supported, even though the VM is running and it'll fail. We now check the power state We fixed a couple other issues there, but that was the main one. Next slide. For workflows, we added the ability to set runner options via settings. A number of these were previously hard-coded in the engine, things like in development, setting the network mode to host so that you can route to your local host container. But it's more flexible to be able to set these via settings. So now there are development and production settings for workflows, and you can tweak whatever options you want via that. And we also fixed workflows not setting a task as failed if the workflow fails, which left it as running and would cause the UI to hang because it would look like it was still waiting for the task to complete. And for flow, Keenan made a PR to make setting the runner more generic. Previously, it was essentially hard-coded to the Docker runner, since that was the only one that we supported. He made some changes to make that a more generic change. And that's it for providers. Over to Joe.
Thanks, Adam. For platform enhancements and improvements this sprint, Keenan added tenancy scoping for switches. Next, Jason added a console helper to make it easier to enable roles in the console. Next, Brandon had several PRs in the work to get us to UBI 9. And as we move to UBI 9, Brandon also added the OS version to the container image tag. Next, there were several Ruby 3.1 related changes. One, Adam bumped the Cupid Proton gem to 0.37.0 as the prior versions didn't support 3.1. I had a few PRs to use Ruby 3.1 in appliances and tests. Brandon added the work for doing that same thing in Podified. And there were several fixes to allow unpermitted classes to be YAML loaded. And Adam made a similar change around loading YAML aliases. There were a few backward compatible changes I added to support Rails 7. We allowed the Rails 7 gem in some of our independent gems. We replaced an initializer with an application configuration option that was also compatible with Rails 6.1. And finally, we changed when in the Rails boot sequence, the settings constant is reset or set up so it occurs before the database is connected hook. And finally, Brandon changed the default name of the certificate authority from something to appliance CA. Next slide. For platform bugs, Nassar fixed the repeated messaging connection attempt bug in a DRB DQ method spec following the configuration changes needed for enabling Kafka. And when reviewing the prior messaging bug, Jason found that our tests were not clearing the cached messaging client between specs, so he fixed that. Next, Nassar added error handling when a catalog source is not found. And Brandon added the cargo package, which is needed for Python cryptography. Next slide.
And that's it for our Sprint 230 review. The next review, Sprint 231, will be on February 21st at the usual place and time. And as always, I'd like to thank all the presenters today, everyone in our community. We've had a lot of people asking great questions and doing the discussions. So head over to the ManageIQ discussions if you have anything to share. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.